This is a Film Stories original podcast.
Hi everybody and welcome to Writers on Film. This is a special edition of Writers on Film, the first of two reports that I'm planning to do from the Venice Film Festival. It is, we're sitting outside. It's a beautiful sunny day, not a cloud in the sky. We're on the Lido. I can see the Casino the Palazzo del Cinema in the distance, in the near distance. The Excelsior is on the horizon, and I'm having a coffee. I'm having a cappuccino. He's having an espresso with my great friend and regular guest, Nicholas Bell. Nice to thank you for joining me, and nice to see you again, Nicholas.
Nice to see you again as well. Thanks for having me again. After, I believe, Cannes was the last time we spoke this year.
Yeah, and it feels like that was long ago and yesterday, at exactly the same time.
Yes, exactly. That all kind of blends together.
So you were telling me just before we started recording that you came here on Tuesday, so you've been here for the duration. The festival started on Wednesday with Paolo Sorrentino's La Grazia, which was the opening film. Let's start there. What did you make of the film?
I have been kind of cool on him for a minute. I will say I liked it better than Parthenope. It had a lot of profound statements or asked a lot of profound questions, but I don't know if it really delved into what any of the answers for those questions might be. I like Tony Servillo. You know, he's a very nice, wry sense of humor and, of course, stars in a lot of his films, but I was fine with it. I do feel like, you know, the opening film sometimes sets the tone, and it's been kind of everything feels kind of downplayed, starting with that opening film for me. What did you think of it?
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. I think if you love Sorrentino because he's a loud, garish filmmaker, this will definitely feel like an odd sort of turning down the volume, and the dimmer switch has been turned down as well. If, like me, and I think you, Nick, you feel there's his excesses can become what's the word for it? Too indulgent.
Oh, yeah.
Then actually, the sobriety of this film is kind of interesting. To give you some context, the film tells the story of the last days in a president of Italy, and this is also to give you some context in terms of the what a president in Italy does. So there's basically a prime minister who has the political power, who wins the elections, who heads the parties, and there is a president who is much more like a head of state, greets other heads of states, signs off on laws, has certain ceremonial functions, but not a great deal of power, except in the sense of like solving government crises, which because Italy has historically been an unstable democracy which cycles through governments on a fairly regular basis, has actually quite a significant amount of power in that sense. Tony Servillo is a president called Mariano. He's in the end, so he's a lame duck, if you like. But he does have three important decisions to make. One is about a law on euthanasia, which he's about to sign or not sign and leave for the next president to deal with. There are two pardons, La Grazia, of the title. One for a woman who's murdered her husband while he was asleep because he was abusive, and the other for a professor who killed his wife, who was a sufferer of Alzheimer's, and so connects a little bit to the euthanasia law. In between this, he's also dealing with the relationship with his daughter, who has to some extent sacrificed her own life in order to facilitate his career, and his close friends, and also he's grieving his wife, who's died prior to the film beginning, and he is sort of lost in dreams of her. Some beautifully photographed shots of her from his memories. But this grief is tinged by a little drop of poison because he knows that she betrayed him and committed adultery, and it's something that he can't get over. So that's sort of the story and to some extent the context. One final piece of context I wanted to give, because I think anyone watching this film might think, oh, this is a sort of slightly fantastic version of a politician. He's respected by everybody. The public cheer him. And this is something like almost like a fantasy of what we want politicians to be. He's rational, considered, wise. However, the last three presidents of Italy have all had popularity ratings in the high 70s. They all have histories. Ciampi was president of the World Bank. Giorgio Napolitano was a former communist, and Ciampi was a partisan as well. So Mattarella, the current incumbent's brother, was killed by the mafia. So they have this, massive respect for these characters. So in that sense, Sevillo plays Mariano, and Mariano is not sort of a wish fulfillment figure. I'm just saying that primarily for people who don't live in Italy or don't know the Italian system, because otherwise it can look as if this is a little bit too much of an ideal version.
Yeah, like a fantasy. And I think Sorrentino is a victim of his own excess a lot. Sometimes it seems tawdry, like Loro, for instance. This La Grazia felt like kind of a continuation of The Great Beauty, but set in like a political mausoleum. But I'm, of course, kind of ignorant about Italian politics. But one of the immediate questions I had was, isn't he kind of lucky to only have 3 decisions that he needs to make in his last 6 months, that he is, for lack of a better word, kind of pussyfooting around the whole time? Like, I'm curious, because you know more than I do, living here. Does it seem like he didn't have enough to do?
Yeah, I mean, there is a sense that he's winding down, and he keeps having sort of a meeting with his sort of chief of staff almost, who keeps going, okay, you have the interview with Vogue about fashions. You have a meeting with the Pope, which I think is one of the sort of standout scenes. That's one of the most Sorrentino scenes. I won't spoil it for you, but it has sort of, we have Sorrentino as well as the sort of creator of the television show, the new Pope and the young Pope. So yeah, I kind of felt that was quite realistic. The fact that he wouldn't have, and I think it is meant to be his last week rather than his last sort of 6 months. So I think it wouldn't. We also see him sort of greet the Portuguese equivalent, and that again is another opportunity for Sorrentino to do one of his sort of stylish stick set pieces, and at that point I was sort of wincing because I thought, okay, here we go.
Yeah. And
it didn't. That was the only bit that was actually could have been a little bit shorter and could have been a little bit.
That's true. And I probably was a little annoyed at the speaking of the Vogue editor, who's this beautiful, much younger woman who kind of aggressively throws herself at him, and that's meant.
Oh no, that's the Lithuanian. That's a Lithuanian prime minister who's going out. And he's talking to the Vogue editor on the phone when he sees her again.
Yeah, but when they first have the meeting and she...
No, that's a Lithuanian...
Oh, yeah, see, then I was totally confused. But I thought that she was the Vogue editor that was trying to get with him.
Yeah, no, but that wasn't... Yeah, I agree with you.
That's right. Yeah, because he sees her walking again as well. But but that woman is aggressive with him and kind of intimating that they're coming to the end of... their terms, and she's free to explore something. I think she asked him to show her around Rome because she hasn't done it properly, and it's like
she asked him for the Grande Bellezza. Right. She says, "Could you be Jep?"
Yeah, basically. So that felt very like Sorrentino can't really help himself inserting that kind of element, that May December romance that kind of proliferates all his films. I did really like the supporting character. Is her name Coco? His best friend.
Yeah, let's just call her Coco. It's like Coco V something.
Yeah.
I can't remember.
She kind of takes her little scenes by hurricane, but very entertaining.
Yeah, I think she injected some well-needed life and some well-needed humor.
Yes.
I mean, the film doesn't have that sort of, it doesn't have the same sort of jokiness of some of his films, and I think that, like, one of the things that he does very well in, say, La Grande Bellezza is that opening party where the music's pumping and everything's going, and it feels like the film is just running on cocaine.
Basically, yeah.
Allegedly,
a little bit of, some uppers. And then, I did find some of it, gets to be sentimental, and I didn't love the whole, because he's secretly into rap music, I don't know how well I think that ultimately worked, but clearly there were other people in the audience that were really responding to that.
Famous Italian rap star being given the Medal of Honor for, it's a presidential Medal of Honor.
That didn't, nothing for me, but, it's amusing. It's light.
Yeah, exactly. And I think if you put this film beside Il Divo as a sort of unofficial sequel.
Sure, yeah.
The one thing that I would take away from it, which I think is overwhelmingly positive, is this sense that we're not living in a world where we can allow ourselves cynicism anymore. Because everything that's wrong in the world is out there in the open, so we don't need to be cynical about things and people being hypocritical, because they're not hypocritical anymore, they're just assholes.
That's the age of the asshole. That's what we're living in.
So to have a political figure in a film actually say, bureaucracy is a good thing. Bureaucracy helps us to slow things down and have considered, calm thought. That sort of small c conservatism, I would have thought when I was a kid, I would have been an obnoxious, opponent of, and now I look at it and think that's the most subversive, revolutionary idea, slowing stuff down and actually thinking.
Right, yes, not reacting to the whatever is the popular opinion of the time in a rash judgment. Yeah, it lays that out in a way that makes perfect sense, actually.
Yeah. So a good opening, solid opening for you?
Yeah.
Solid, but not like spectacular.
No, not because what was last year?
Last year was Beetlejuice.
That's right. Okay, yeah, that was much more Hollywood, and that was coming off the year before where the strikes interrupted challengers from opening. So I think, this was a nice. It was a nice opening bid from a major Italian filmmaker.
That's a well put, I think. Another major Italian filmmaker, of course, was Luca Guadagnino, who you just referred to in terms of the challengers. I'm not sure if we're on the same page with challengers or not. You were a fan?
I was a fan. Yes, you were not.
I was not.
That's okay. I've talked to many people that didn't like it, but of course it wasn't in Venice, so I saw it whenever that came out that year. The soundtrack I'm pretty partial to and listen to quite a bit. But I thought there was a lot to like about it, but I can understand not loving it as well.
Okay, which brings us to Guadagnino's next film, the film which showed at not his next film actually, his film was Queer After Challengers.
That's right, yeah.
Which was here last year, so he's doing a twofer. He's doing back-to-back Venices, and he's really making up for lost time.
Yeah.
And After the Hunt is a very starry film. It's Julia Roberts in the main role as a Yale professor who is going for tenure, a little bit old to be going for tenure.
Yeah, I was like, what you been doing? Because her competition, her colleague in the same boat is Andrew Garfield, who's, a bit younger.
Yeah, and also boyish. I mean, he's not just younger in terms of calendar years. He's got this sort of, there's a scene with him and the star from The Bear, whose name I always forget.
Ayo Edebiri?
Yeah, Ayo Edebiri, who, they're talking about being from different, your generation, blah,
right.
blah, blah. And it's like, Garfield's hardly a boomer.
Not at all. They can relate in so many ways. It's the fact that there are conversations of that film about, because Roberts and Garfield are also close friends and maybe lovers, but what are you going to do when one of you gets it? Isn't that going to upset your friendship? And it's like, well, if I were her, of course I'd be pissed. Like she should get it. Just on the optics, I think, because of their age. She's been doing it longer, right? That is, the initial thought. But I think that relates to some... The film feels imbalanced in a lot of ways, in that element being one of them, I thought.
Yeah, the drama as a whole sort of lays itself out as a there's partly a character study of the Julia Roberts character, which I think is its most successful element.
Yes,
she's really strong and, certain, as I say, irrealities aside, it works. She's plagued by some sort of mysterious illness. She's plagued by obvious addiction issues. She has something in her past, a secret, which is discovered at a certain point by another character. I don't want to spoil too much, but the main crux of the argument is there is a accusation of sexual assault against Andrew Garfield by Ibiri's character. And she is being asked to be an ally, and which she sort of fails at the first hurdle, and finds herself compromised in so many ways. Is she being a hypocrite? And of course, they are ethics professors, so it's all about, can they do what they teach? And there's an embarrassment of riches in this film in terms of the cast. You have Michael Stuhlbarg and Chloe Sevigny is in it as well. Tell me, you're the Challengers fan. Tell me,
Challenge.
Is this a double fault or out or point advantage Guadagnino?
God, I don't know tennis terminology.
I just shot words at you then.
40 love. I like it. Yeah, okay, so a little setup to before the screening, there was a major thunderstorm. And that, of all my years of festival experiences, I've never been caught in such a vulnerable state for so long in the downpouring rain. And it was completely, it was a miserable, very wet, screening experience. But, so I will say that even with that discomfort, I was with it the whole time, and it is long. I want to say it's about 2.5 hours. I couldn't help but feel like it should have been a little tighter and smarter because, especially in the wake of something like Tar, which I felt was by far a lot more efficient with some of the same points that it's making, particularly with Roberts versus, the Lydia Tar character. She even has a very similar scene that I believe was in the trailer that I happened to see for this. But I think at the end I felt confused about how I was supposed to feel. The secret you alluded to, that I won't say either, that felt like a little bit of why is this a big deal at all at the moment? Kind of like, did you see, was it last year where Disclaimer was here with Kate Blanchett?
Yeah, I didn't see it, but I heard a lot of people making parallels.
Yeah, because that also has to do with this past secret that comes to light for this woman, and it's like, if everybody was actually being an adult and communicating effectively, this would not be a big deal at all. So, in that sense, it's like, with After the Hunt, it builds and builds and builds to, I think, just leave me feeling kind of ambiguous about how I feel about any of those. And then, was it last year, is this year that Dreams won in Berlin?
Yes, the Norwegian film.
Have you seen that?
Yes, it's wonderful.
I thought of that film as well. I agree that's wonderful because it's also about a young female student that becomes obsessed. Because there's some obsession with the Ed Ibiri character in Roberts that is also in the background, like that there's, because Ed Ibiri's character is a lesbian and might have an attraction to Julia Roberts. But in Dreams, the Norwegian film is about the student that falls in love with a female teacher and kind of goes through some similar arcs for those characters, teacher and student. But that film is all about kind of communication. There's almost too much communication. Like every feeling is being parsed by parents, grandparents, and I don't know. It's After the Hunt felt like a weird mashup of things, including Woody Allen.
Okay, so the Woody Allen point, we should make this clear. The title sequence is done in a pastiche of Woody Allen's title sequences, white on black font, and a cast in order of alphabetical order. This is the first of several major quotations in the film. We see a character listening to Miles Davis, and we see it because we see the cassette case. Yes. And then another scene, the professors, for some reason, insist on going to a bar which is occupied by their students. Uh-huh. And then there is someone's put Morrissey on, and I think Chloe Sevigny's character even says, "Oh, brave choice," and it's almost like, not really. I mean, I think cancel culture is being made into a straw man here to be knocked down all the time, and the film is out of date, is well out of date, if that's the point it wants to make. And you might say, oh well, it was probably sort of written and conceived of before the second Trump presidency, but frankly, it was out of date in the 1980s. David Mamet did the academic dealing with sexual allegations in Oleana.
Yeah.
before he went mad.
Yeah.
But having that madness in him, he kind of understands the nitty gritty and the dirty of that sort of argument or subject. I don't think Guadagnino really does, and he over-directs this to it's a real look-at-me direction, cameras shooting and zooming and angles, unusual angles, and a moment in which he actually sort of intervenes in the film as the director. I won't tell you, again, it's a bit of a spoiler, so I won't tell you when. But it was for all the starriness of the casting. Michael Stuhlbarg is in it as Julia Roberts' obviously gay husband.
Yes, and we see a scene with him watching. Well, he falls asleep to some pornography.
And it's like hetero porn as well.
Which made no sense to me, but, because I thought that he was very purposefully playing this overblown gay character, and I thought that that's interesting that Julie Roberts is, at the apex of, being married to a gay man and her lesbian student is obsessed with her, but then it, I guess, pulls the rug out from under us on that. But
yeah, I mean, is that just like, look, your gaydars are wrong. There can be plenty of sort of effeminate men that aren't gay.
Sure, and especially in academia, like you never can tell. Believe people what they tell you that they are. The Chloe Sevigny moment with Morrissey in the bar was also, and again, you talked about Andrew Garfield speaking to Etta Beery about her generation. To me, I felt like they were trying to say that the adults in this scenario really are misreading their students. Like they think that they know all about them and how they navigate the world, but they really don't have a clue. Because I would think that in this bar, these drunk college students aren't really even paying that much attention to it. Like, what did she expect, that somebody would get up shouting that turn this off?
Yeah, no, absolutely. They're kind of drunk, they have to shift a drunkard out of he doesn't even know who Morrissey is.
Well, that's too. You're expecting a lot that they would know that cultural reference when I don't know that. I don't think that they would know that automatically.
Yeah, there was something else there that you said that's interesting as well. Is that I actually think that isn't Guadagnino in that? I mean, isn't he, as a director making this film, sort of also not seeing the cultural moment? He's too much of that camp. So I'll give you an example. Julia Roberts has a big scene which is kind of supposed to be a showstopper speech, where she dresses down a student and goes on about fucking trigger warnings. And I just thought, wow, such a cliche. We've done that. Surely we've done that. Is that really and I couldn't help but just feel that the thumb was on the scales to such an extent that I just didn't trust the film.
I agree. I feel like for these Yale professors, I mean, everybody makes stupid decisions. She's kind of Julie Roberts is like Icarus. She's flying too close to the sun and ruins herself in this. But I can't help but I felt like the writing should have been more intelligent in these characters. And again, that show-stopping scene, which feels too obvious and on the nose. Like, again, I kept thinking of that scene with Blanchett and Tar and that student, and what that fabulous line she has about don't be so quick to be offended. And seemed like a very irritated teacher dealing with politically correct, pretentious students. Like that, it felt more natural than this, which just felt like we're screaming into the void about, how awful it is to exist right now, and we can't say what we really mean.
I mean, I can't speak to the American academic situation, but having worked in academia in Italy for 30 years, I think I can say these people are all terrible teachers. There are ways of addressing these issues without dressing down and humiliating people you disagree with. You're kind of bullying people.
Well, exactly, especially in a world where everybody's recording everything. It just doesn't seem... They just don't really seem to make sense. Even if you think back to the beginning of the film, because it opens with the party, right? Where they're mingling with all these students, and when Andrew Garfield and Ayo Edebiri leave the party, and he's clearly drunk, I can't believe that there aren't alarms going off in these people's heads. Like, this feels strange right now and inappropriate, and we need to have more awareness of how we're behaving with the children.
Right, exactly. If we're the adults in the room, then be the adults in the room. you know. And there's a sort of coda at the end of the film, which changes nothing except to tell you that the whole film's kind of irrelevant.
Yes. And that's kind of
a coda that could have been an email.
Exactly. And that's kind of how I feel about it now, even a couple of days later after watching it, which, you know, I think I happened to catch a clip of Julia Roberts at the press conference saying they want people to have a conversation. And this certainly does that. But, and then I think I read somebody said it much better than I on Letterboxd. It was kind of like a lobotomized version of Tar.
Yeah, well, that's a little bit...
That's harsh.
That's right? Harsh, but not entirely without, reason.
Yeah, I think it just should have felt a little smarter. Even the confrontation with, where, Julie Roberts, I don't want to give away much, but the adults kind of ruin themselves by the choices they make, and because of that, she feels emboldened to confront Etta Beery in a public scene, who also has a trans partner.
I was going to ask about that. I mean, if it wasn't Guadagnino, wouldn't that just be this kind of transphobic, this depiction?
And I think that, because Julie Roberts gets in that person's face in a demeaning way that I think the film and that character are trying to be daring about and suggesting that they've lost themselves to an extent that they don't care that they're gonna, like, she is being transphobic in that moment. But I don't know that I think that it reads that way, except that character is used merely to make a point. Which it seems like, with this long running time, they could have given that character a little more of a vantage point. Like, I don't understand what they see in Etta Beery, because the scenes that we see with them together where they're being vulnerable, they don't read like a couple. They don't read like two people that are intimate, that are talking about it. My partner was sexually assaulted, and just the way they're interacting about an article that's published makes no sense to me. I don't know.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I totally agree with that. And as a helicopter goes overhead, because it's attracted to our amazing opinions, there it goes. It's going to hover, because it just wants to hear a little bit more of this podcast before anybody else does. The last point I wanted to make in terms of the length that you mentioned, this film manages to do the strange paradoxical thing of being both too long and strangely incomplete.
Yes, exactly. Because it's based on a book.
This is the thing. I was thinking that, and I was talking to someone and said, no, it's a blacklisted script that's been around for a while.
Because it plays like something that they cut something out of the book.
Yeah, it plays like I don't want to say a bad adaptation of a better book, but I could imagine reading the book and going, oh no, they've totally missed this.
Yes, exactly. And I didn't write about this film, which is why I've done no research into the basis of it. But, it feels like this would have been a film that after the festival ends, I'd be like, oh, I want to go back and read that book.
Right, yes, yeah. I remember you last year reading Ayn Rand's Fountainhead because you wanted the background on that for the Brutalist.
Yes, because I think I'd read some early interview with Brady Corbet, I guess is how you pronounce his last name now, even though when I met him initially that was not the case. But
don't dead name him.
I'm being phobic. Because I had read that was kind of an inspiration for the Adrian Brody character, and I'm glad I finally did read that.
Okay, well, you're one of the very, 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 very few.
Oh yes. It's a very obscure novel that no one talks about anymore.
Oh well, people talk about it. They just don't read the goddamn thing.
They just look up quotes from it and use it, like the Bible.
Yeah. It's one of those books that the quotes are always on sort of cards and images, and when you Google images, it'll bring up. Let's move on to sort of a film that maybe you. I want you to pick a film that you've really liked.
Well, two that I really liked. Well, the easier one to talk about is probably Park Chan-wook, No Other Choice, because I read the Westlake novel, which I really liked. I like Westlake anyway. And watched the Costa Gavras adaptation, which is hard to track down, strangely.
You do your homework, man. I'm absolutely in awe of you.
I do try. In the Chan-wook version, is dedicated to Costa Gavras. But apparently I didn't realize that this has kind of been a lifelong project for him to make this movie, which is interesting. And I think thematically it fits into... Because it screened the same morning as the Donzelli. My French is very poor, but the English language title is At Work. And I feel like those two make a really interesting double feature, because there's a lot of things... several other films... Off the top of my tongue, I can't think of any, that deal with kind of people grappling with an economic crisis.
Parasite.
Parasite as well. Yeah, I thought of Parasite several times watching No Other Choice. But no, even at this film festival, there was something else dealing with... I guess you could throw After the Hunt in there, too. Anyway, I really liked No Other Choice. I thought it was very elegant. I thought that it made some nice condensed choices in relation to the novel, but also sticks really similarly to what was published in 1997, obviously updating it to Korea and 2025, but it seems more relevant than ever what's going on in the film.
Yeah, so this is a film which is a heightened cinematic experience. I mean, you're not from the very beginning. You're almost in a Blue Velvet world of white picket fences and flowers against blue skies. There's a company man who works in a paper business, high quality paper, and he's having a barbecue with his family. They have 2 dogs. The daughter is practicing her cello playing, and he takes a moment to say everything's wonderful and nothing could possibly go wrong. And that's how the film sort of opens. And he's even, he's like Job, sort of shouting at God, thank you, God, I'm fine, and autumn is coming.
Yes, fall is coming for sure for this family, and it comes swiftly.
In the shape of a redundancy, which then obviously, the thing is, it's a redundancy. It's not like he's out of work. He's just out of work at the thing he wants to do, because he can get work in low-paying sort of supermarket packing jobs and stuff like that, but he doesn't want to do them. I mean, he's a skilled worker, he's a manager, he's a middle class, and the financial recompense is not enough to make the mortgage payments on his home, which is his childhood home that he has. That is revealed later. There's a very particular reason why he wants to keep the house, and so on it goes. And he decides to concoct a murderous plot which will create a vacancy, which he can then pursue. But then, following it to the murderous logic of his thinking, he ought to also, while he's killing people, kill the 2 top candidates and clear the field for him. It's a very funny film.
Yes, very funny. Surprisingly you laugh a lot. But and actually that is what Park Chan-wook I think is bringing to it, that the previous film adaptation and the novel don't have. They're very stark. So yeah, you are laughing a lot. And one of the best scenes is when he's confronted with his victim's wife, which in the novel that character is murdered as well, but she plays really well into the finale, I thought.
Oh, that's an interesting point. Yes, very much so. I thought the women were really interesting in this film also, because there was a sense that they actually, both the wife of one of his victims and his own wife, do say to the men, look, there actually is another choice. The no other choice of the title, the fate that is driving you to these extremities, is entirely culturally constructed.
Yes, the ultimate irony of the title, which is repeated by several characters, that it's a code for I'm unwilling to do the right thing, not that there's no other choice. And
which is originally said by the American company that come in and buy the paper company. So there's no, in English we have this acronym TINA. There is no alternative, which is exactly the same thing. And it was used by the Margaret Thatcher government to run through a whole series of heinous cuts to social services. There's always no other alternative when it comes to taking money out of poor people. But when it comes to, saving the financial sector in 2008 or something like that... stop me, Nicholas, I'm going off.
No, I agree. Well, currently in the U.S., that's kind of the what's going on with the administration. But there's no other choice but to do irreparable harm to everyone because we want to. But yeah, so I think clearly it speaks to the times, both past and present, of how little we've come, or are regressing, actually. But yeah, I don't know. I quite liked it. It also is kind of a lengthy running time, but it's beautifully shot. I mean, I like your Blue Velvet reference, because there are so many kind of breathtaking moments, which I like this a lot better even than Decision to Leave, which also is a lengthy genre film that I think is too long, but I don't know. There wasn't anything I didn't like about it, really.
Yeah, I don't think this is too long at all. I'm absolutely happy with staying in that world for that length. It told the story. There was no point that I thought this is extraneous, we don't need this. There was no point where I thought this could end earlier. And I was talking to someone about Sentimental Value, the Norwegian film, recently, which I had an opportunity to re-watch in Oslo. At the opening of Oslo Picks, a film festival there. Thank you very much for inviting me. And I was talking to a Norwegian director, and somebody had mentioned, this film's a bit too long, it could have been a bit tighter. And he said, no, if you'd cut things out, it would have actually seemed longer. And I thought, that's a really good point. And we need to counter... I mean, I think it's a valid criticism for a lot of films, but we should stop it being the knee-jerk when we see 2 hours, 20 minutes, that this could have lost 20, 30 minutes.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Sometimes that running time is completely justified, and maybe you need it to kind of settle into the environment that it's creating for you. I mean, length becomes a thing when, there's too much extraneous details and it's the pacing, but sometimes, are you running a marathon or half marathon? That's what the film is. And that, I guess, No Other Choice is more of a marathon. But back to your point about the women, I think that is what Park Chan-wook really enhances, because the wife has a lot more to do and is added into the ethical dilemma in a way that her previous iterations have not. And I think it also, you become complicit by not saying things too, right?
Right, and to some degree, the daughter, I think, is an excellent example of that, because she just repeats what other people say. So she is, in some ways, a sort of chorus, like Greek chorus to the situation. And then you have, and she's also the musician. Yeah. And she's doing something that I'm not going to spoil it, but she's doing something which sort of seems like a obsessive activity, and then it turns out makes perfect sense.
Yes.
And the film's full of those beautiful, beautiful details and touches, and all the way through there are these little notes of absolute grace and craft, which I just found fascinating.
Oh yeah, there's a thing with snakes that's going on in there. But the daughter even too, because it's this picture perfect family, but come to find this daughter has a major issue. She doesn't speak. Like, that's kind of something to work on. But she's a prodigy at the cello, and they have no other choice but to. It's the only way she can live independently is if she's a success with playing this instrument. So it's like they're killing themselves and other people to afford this teacher for the daughter, but it's like, you might need to figure something else out for this kid.
Plus, she's a genius, so there's kind of time for that. She's growing, and you might not need her to be being taught from such an early age.
Like right this second, it's not like ballet where there's such a short shelf life for her body to be doing this. It's like, yeah, you guys can figure it out. I don't know.
Wonderful. And there is a fight scene in this with music, and a comedic fight scene.
Yes.
Which just goes on and on. It's very, very funny and very darkly fun. I think this is one of his masterpieces. I think this is up there with the Vengeance trilogy. It's darker. I mean, it's not as dark as Old Boy and things like that. It's not as, but at the same time, I think this is a step up from Decision to Leave.
Yeah, for sure. And it's not as stark as the Vengeance trilogy, but the implications at the end are. I don't know. I loved it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a masterpiece of the festival thus far. So,
and now that we're talking, my other favorite film actually has a ties to Korean cinema as well, because the other film I really liked was Begonia, which is a remake of the 2003 Korean film Save the Green Planet.
Well, let's talk about that. That's I'm ditto with you on that. These are my two favourite films of the festival.
Perfect. There's a reason we're speaking, right?
Challenges aside, that was a blip. That was a blip.
Don't hold that against me. But no, and I still love that film. But yeah, Begonia, because I was very cool on Kinds of Kindness, so I think I was going into Begonia with maybe low expectations, and I have to say, also really dark and really funny.
So what we have with Begonia is a story of, again, it's Emma Stone, Yorgos Lanthimos collaboration, which is becoming the new De Niro Scorsese partnership of director and actor. Jesse Plemons returns, who was in Kind of Kindness as well, and he is a conspiracy theorist who, along with his cousin, who seems to have learning difficulties, have kidnapped a CEO of a powerful company, which has been responsible for a family tragedy, and they are using they believe that she is an alien, essentially, and yeah, this is again, dark and funny. That's Park Chan-wook all over, and it is Lanthimos all over also.
Oh yeah, I think Emma Stone is kind of brilliant in it. I loved it, and I loved how it looked. Maybe I was getting this more with the poster art. It's kind of got there's a countdown to this lunar eclipse as part of the plot, but even the font in there was giving me a Soviet era sci-fi cinema. I don't know, I liked all the elements going on behind it, but Plemons how do you want to phrase it? Has lost so much weight, it was giving me Christian Bale and Machinist vibes.
Oh, right. Yeah, he looks remarkably unattractive in this, in a way which is kind of not actory unattractive. It's kind of like he's really sort of going for the grime and ordinariness. There was, again, to connect it to the No Other Choice, there was a Lynchness to the violence in this and the nastiness. I mean, I think we've gentrified David Lynch a little bit with our YouTube clips and our memes and whatnot. Lynch essentially is a kind of nasty filmmaker. There's a nastiness to him in his view of the world, which we don't need to, smooth the edges of. I think Lanthimos in that is somewhat of an heir of that. And there's a particular scene comes around near the end, so I won't say it, but when you see this, I think you will go, oh, that's Wild at Heart.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. With the, but like Lynch, I think Lanthimos knows when to use that violence as well. So it has the effect that's desired. That you have that reaction. And there's a torture scene. I watch a lot of film. There's a whole subgenre of torture porn cinema. That had the effect that I think it needed to. Like, it was disturbing to watch and to witness.
There's some kind of almost drive-by weirdness and nastiness as a sort of side character who's a cop who has a history as a babysitter for the Plemons character, and you're never quite sure, it's never quite explicit what went on, but as the film goes on, you realise that this is more and more serious, and you have to flip your liking and sympathies from one character to the other.
Yeah, that is really interesting, because I think it's intimated that this babysitter, who's now this portly police officer, is trying to make reparations for maybe molesting the Plemons character as a child, is what I was interpreting. The more details we find, because every time he sees him, he brings it up. And then Alicia Silverstone is his mother, and the flashbacks we get of her are also quite disturbing. Yes, but there's that kind of obligatory moment where the cop shows up where something's happening and he might save the day, but it's like, well, yeah, he's not really a good person either.
Yeah, the cop in Misery and, Chef Halloran in The Shining and plenty of other examples for that. I agree with you about how it looks as well. It's the British cinematographer Richie...
Robbie Richardson?
Robbie Richardson. Yeah, I was thinking Robbie, and then I was thinking of Robbie Williams, and thinking that's not it.
Is it Robbie Ryan? It's something, yeah, he's worked with him. He did Poor Things as well.
That's right, yeah. And he's an amazing cinematographer. Google it, Jesus Christ. Right. we can't be expected to do this.
And the score from Jerskin Fendrix, who also did the last two Lanthimos films, comes kind of booming in ways that seems strange initially, but then it all kind of really coalesces in a bizarre way. I don't know. Like I really dug it.
Yeah, and can I just rewind a second and say that contrasts markedly with the way the score is used in After the Hunt, in which the score is very derivative of Eyes Wide Shut, when it isn't just doing silly things like putting a metronome in for no particular reason. Just as it was almost like a university film class had been given some uninspiring footage and told, beef this up with sound.
I'm glad you said that about the metronome, because I thought that too. I'm like, because it's used a couple times in that movie, and I'm like, but why? What's this rhythm indicating right now?
Yeah, none of the characters are like music teachers. You know, there's really no purpose for this. Okay, well, I think we're coming towards the end of our conversation, but so let's just mention a few more, sort of like briefly. Let's go through a few that we've seen that maybe we want to highlight.
Oh, I wanted to say about Begonia. I love the Marlene Dietrich cover of Pete Seeger's "Where Have All the Flowers Gone" by the end. Also, sorry.
We should do a playlist of songs that we listen to at Venice Film Festival.
Yes, and it ends perfectly with the montage that's going on. Love it, love it, love it.
Yeah, that's an absolute, and yes, there is a montage at the end. Again, no spoilers, but which could be taken out and used as a separate film and would work perfectly. You know, I love that montage.
Yeah.
And I at some point I'll talk about it maybe in a spoiler episode, because it relates to a film project I'm working on at the moment, which is really, really fascinating. It's really, yeah. There's a really, you'll hear about it.
Okay, yeah, no, I want to hear more, yeah.
Okay, right, so let's sort of do a quick fire round of films that you...
Oh God, what did we just saw? Smashing Machine?
We've just saw Smashing Machine. Let's start with that.
That was, I think I was surprised at how slight it felt, even though I liked the two lead performances enough, but I think I came to the end of the film. There's very much a point to the film and from Safdie that he's trying to make about...
Is there?
I think he's trying to...
That sounds like... When somebody says that, it sounds like they mean the absolute opposite of what they...
Well, he's paying homage to someone that's a notable trailblazer in a world that I'm really ignorant about, but so I appreciate the sentiment behind that. Although I don't know how much...
Could have been an email?
Yeah, it could have been an email. I didn't need to have this meeting, Josh, but you know, it's clear Dwayne The Rock Johnson kind of put a lot into the performance, so I appreciate that. I felt myself mostly fascinated by how different he looks with the prosthetics, looking like this person, Mark Kerr. So yeah, I think it's one of those films that's probably going to have a strong Oscar campaign.
Oh, definitely, and I agree that it's this is one of the Safdie brothers. I'm not sure which one is it, Ben or Josh?
I think it's. Oh God! Well, I saw Josh right before the screening, so
going in. Right, I've got a feeling it might be Ben. You know, I've got a feeling it might be Ben. Yes. Okay, so and Ben is what, the Oppenheimer one?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
That's how we.
The Emily Blunt connection.
Emily Blunt is plays Mark's lover and later wife, Dawn. Yeah, I totally agree. I think it was very slight. I think it kind of was so intent on not following sports movie cliches that it actually forewent some of the pleasures that comes with those cliches.
I agree. I mean, you still get, there's a training montage, and then the third act is a series of fights. but yeah, I think it does feel like, especially in the second half of the film, like we're missing the build-up, the crescendo. because he's got an opioid addiction issue, and I feel like it plays it safe around all of those things. Like, because we see him going to rehab, and then the next shot is him leaving rehab, kind of like I don't know what work he's done.
Yeah, and you don't know how is it going to stick? I was actually kind of unsure. There was a moment where he's drinking a bottle, and I'm like, is he back on booze now, or is that a non-alcoholic thing because he's still got a sponsor, or is he only off the opioids and he's okay with booze? The film wasn't giving me that much context.
Yeah, same with the context of a very toxic, maybe codependent relationship with Dawn, because they seemed like people that hadn't been together very long, and I kept wondering, like, how long have these people been together? How long have they dealt with this issue that they're dealing? Like, she knows, she confronts him about his drug issues, but I don't know. Like, it's missing something to tie it together nicely.
It's kind of the flatness of the narrative, because like when she turns up towards the very beginning, she turns up before a tournament in Japan, right at the very beginning of the film, his sort of trainer and best friend, who really is actually probably more the second lead than Emily Blunt is.
Yes.
He sort of, there's a coldness to their relationship, and it almost made me think, is there some history? Is he an ex or something? And it's never addressed, and it never changes that relationship. It just stays flat.
No,
and there's so much in the film that doesn't have any arcs. They're all
because that character's name is Mark Coleman. Yeah, it just seemed like he thinks Don's toxic, and the trainer too. Like they're like, is it a good idea that you go alone with her before the tournament? But nobody's telling him.
There's no confrontation.
No, like this woman is bad for you, and I kept second guessing because she seems reasonable until a point where she doesn't, and then it's like, oh, she's the problem. But the film is kind of I don't know why it's dancing around it.
Like she seemed. I mean, I thought the film there's two possibilities. Either the film did her total justice and she's a bit of a nag, right. or the film did her an injustice and didn't really give her any interiority or any really, But her sort of like, sober people are so boring. They make it all about themselves.
Right.
It just felt incredible that like he's about to go away for a fight which is worth $200,000, and she's like, why can't you be more fun? Why can't you just relax and be more fun? And why can't I come?
Yeah, exactly. She's sabotaging him, and they do show the ups and downs in that. And having been in a relationship for 17 years myself, like some of that felt realistic, and then some of it didn't. Where I don't understand what her prerogative is and why, because that is a very real issue. Like if there's a substance abuse, I don't have experience with that, but if one of you is sober and the other one is still going out and drinking, that does cause a problem that you need to deal with. That these two clearly aren't.
Brilliant film recommendation, not a brilliant film recommendation, a recommendation of a brilliant film, Smashed, with Mary Elizabeth Winstead and Jesse
from
Breaking Bad. That's the character's name. Yeah. I was going to say Jesse Plemons.
Aaron Paul.
Aaron Paul. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I remember that. That's like a decade old by now. Yes.
Yeah, but the director of The Spectacular Now, whose name...
Ponsol's?
Yeah, exactly. Well done, James Ponsel. Who seems to be his issue. Seems to be alcohol is like his thing he comes back to in really interesting ways and really non-judgmental ways. He's a great underrated director in my opinion.
I agree, yeah.
Okay, who else?
What did you think of... I keep wanting to say Jay Ellis, but it's Jay Kelly. What did you think?
Okay, this is my possibly one of my harshest letdowns. It's meant to be a Hollywood... This is George Clooney playing himself, and it's Ocean 12's it in terms of the playing itself element. He even has a sizzle reel at the end, which is all George Clooney films, including The Thin Red Line and including many much better films.
Oh, yes.
It's shot like a Rolex advert, and I wasn't sure if that was satirical because, or Nespresso advert at times. And it feels like the sad decline of a really great talent, because I think it's unctuous and
that's a good word for
it's meant to be some sort of satire, but I've had more satirical hand jobs.
It certainly made me want a hand job more than watching that film. I did not like it, to say the least. I think it was a letdown, and because I liked Baumbach, especially up to maybe through Margot at the Wedding, and then I don't know what Greta Gerwig did to him or that divorce from Jennifer Jason Leigh, but I really didn't like it. I think it has some of the worst sequences he's ever filmed, including the sequence on a train that I absolutely loathed. I hated it.
That scene was like the film within the film for a Hollywood satire.
Exactly. Lars Eidinger shows up, who is in White Noise. I felt like a title for this should have been White Noise.
Because I couldn't hear what he was trying to say.
Lars Eidinger has this... He's on this train that George Clooney's on, this famous actor, and of course people are responding to this famous actor on the train, and this is a character, a German bike rider that is suddenly stopped taking his medication, and when he does that, he steals somebody's purse, and George Clooney has to intervene. I hated that. I hated every second of that. And the supporting characters, I think Adam Sandler's well cast and has some moments that could be good, but nothing means anything. And there's all these incredibly notable people that have really nothing to do. Like, nothing to do.
Patrick Wilson.
Isn't Isla Fisher pops up as his wife? I hated that scene.
Emily Mortimer.
Yeah, she has nothing to do. She gives Macron a haircut. Yeah. That's a thing that's mentioned.
And she writes the film. Her and Baumbach scripted the film.
That's right. Yeah, no, not... only maybe Laura Dern had a couple moments where I was like, oh, this feels like some energy I can tap into that I like. But then they give her this hackneyed past romance with Adam Sandler.
Yeah, no. Yes and no and no. Absolutely no. Adam Sandler, I agree, was probably the best performance but his fingertips were so obviously touching the Academy Award envelope that it just felt manipulative. It's just poor. I mean, this is Netflix, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
It felt like the worst kind of Netflix. It felt like this is what Netflix does to good filmmakers.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Well, so we probably should talk about the other Netflix film.
Let's.
Frankenstein.
What did you think?
I liked it well enough. I think it feels too long. Speaking about, it's not a marathon film. Shelley's Text was not a marathon film, and it does try to do interesting things by dividing up the perspectives. Like that's part 1 and part 2, and has a prologue between.
And that's quite true to the book as well, because there's a long section of the book in the middle where it's the creature's narrative.
That's true, and I think that it just doesn't blend together. It seems like when part 2 starts, and part 2 has some nice moments with Jacob Elordi and the blind man. I was actually very moved by that moment, but the energy kind of starts to dissipate, and then it's like, I don't know how much more of this than I need, but compared to something like the Kenneth Branagh version, this is a masterpiece. But
I mean the bar is so low, it's underground. You need a spade to find the bar.
That's true. I've rewatched it.
Is Branagh the worst film director who's had a run of films? Because honestly, Belfast. Yeah,
I don't understand how the Academy loved that so much. It looked nice, but
I disagree.
You didn't even think it looked nice?
Well,
I didn't mind looking at it.
It was a film that was obviously shot inside.
That's true too, but it has. I didn't. That was the best thing about it to me, though, and I didn't love it at all. But he's. It's been a while since he's done something. Probably in the 80s.
Yeah. Much Ado About Nothing or Henry V.
Much Ado was. Yeah, that was. I remember liking that, but Cinderella, the Agatha Christie films. Anyway, if you remember his Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, he's shirtless and he has abs in that, and that seemed like that's what he was all about.
Yeah, no, that's true. That was the whole raison d'etre for that film, and he had De Niro in that film, and still couldn't make it interesting.
Terrible. So compared to those things, to me, this is probably the best thing since the James Whale. Really, as far as the lineage of Frankenstein.
I mean, it's interesting that Frankenstein just hasn't had the cinematic iterations that Dracula has, for instance, where, you can go even the comedy versions with Young Frankenstein. No, wait a second, of course, Young Frankenstein. That's actually, Young Frankenstein, Boris Karloff, this. Yeah. I mean, that's basically what you've got, right?
Yeah, that's worth watching.
Whereas Dracula, we've got, the Bram Stoker Dracula, we've got Nosferatu, we've got 3 Nosferatus.
In the Todd Browning original.
Bela Lugosi.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's, and there's even sort of versions that were turned up in the 80s that were Frank Lanalia did a
I forgot
version
that
that
he
was
did
quite
too.
good. Christopher Lee in
Christopher
Hammer.
Lee, the Hammer films.
Yeah, so it's a little, I know there's a Hammer Frankenstein as well, but I don't think it really took hold as much as, say, Christopher Lee's did.
Oh yeah, no, not at all. But so I like some of the choices that Del Toro is making. I think Elordi was giving me, because it also has a lot of narration, because it's both characters telling Lars Mikkelsen their story, the ship captain, and he was giving me, the voice work was giving me Brad Pitt as Louis in Interview with the Vampire, but if he looked like he came out of Wes Craven's People Under the Stairs. That was
Got you.
That was
Yeah.
amazing.
Well, funnily enough, as an Englishman, I asked the question at the press conference about performance of Frankenstein to Elordi and the design to Guillermo del Toro. And it was interesting because del Toro mentioned that he didn't want Frankenstein to be a scientist so much as an artist. Okay. And so he said, I didn't want any stitches because he's an artist, and stitches, he would be good enough at the stitches to hide them.
Interesting.
Yeah. And the other thing he said that I mentioned was, is there some Yorkshire in there? Because I could hear a Yorkshire accent. And they were like, oh, we're so glad you caught that. He speaks in a Yorkshire accent at the very beginning when he starts speaking, because he's learning English from David Bradley, the actor who plays the blind man, who most will know from the Harry Potter series, where he is the sort of caretaker, and he's Yorkshire. So he's learning the pronunciation from a Yorkshireman. So we did have him speak in a Yorkshire accent for the first part of the movie, and then when you see him as an older monster, I also love the fact that in the film, he kind of more or less says, look, call me Frankenstein or the creature, either's fine.
Right. Well, I was almost going to say, because his first word that he says, much to the chagrin of Oscar Isaac, is Victor over and over again. Victor Jr. The devil's in the details in a lot of ways, though, because this is set 40 years after Shelley's original text, and you get references to Milton, which is from the book, and he has the creature reciting Ozymandias, which was written by her husband. So I liked all those little details.
He's a very intellectual filmmaker, Guillermo, much more so than, say, Tim Burton, who sort of tends to paddle in the same pool, let's say, fantasy and dark gothic imagination. One sort of, it's not a bum note or anything, but I felt Mia Goth was kind of underserved. I didn't really understand what the heck she was doing in the film.
I thought they should be a little more perverse with her, because she clearly has the hots for the creature. But it's phrased kind of vaguely in ways that he's a pure creature and that's what she's attracted to. It's like, I think there's some other things there.
Well, you do see in the scene where he's being put together. Did I see something on a platter, sort of going as I'll be explicit. I think there was a big cock.
You saw a large phallus?
Yes.
I guess how did I miss that?
Nick, you've been reading The Fountainhead too much. You need to spend more time.
I've anesthetized my mind. Wow. Well, yeah, that could be, because when she first sees him, she's attracted to him physically. But I just find it funny that Del Toro didn't kind of push that a little further, because she does seem underserved. For
a film so long, it would be nice. Again, it's a little bit that problem. And one of the big things that I think is a sort of a big decision, and perhaps will be a divisive decision, is turning the Frankenstein creature into a superhero, because he's kind of like Wolverine. He kind of heals, and that has the benefit of giving him action scenes.
Yes,
but also the downside of making him less Frankenstein's creature.
Yeah, these kind of less sinister.
I'm undecided about that.
I think I am too, because he seems indestructible, really. Like, he cannot die. But the way in which that's visualized, it does seem like a superhero film. And maybe more like a Netflix film. Because it almost like you're kind of watching a Netflix series. It feels like when part 2 starts, I'm like, Netflix didn't allow me to watch the credits and started the second episode. That's what it feels like. But that said, and Mia Goth is better than Helena Bonham Carter and Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. I think it was fine. I don't know. I do like that Del Toro, like he did with the Nightmare Alley remake, takes some time to have...
Which I loved, by the way.
I loved that too. And I liked the choices he made by giving the father-son trauma in that, with the Bradley Cooper character, some actual visceral interiority.
Oh, there was some real darkness when Charles Dance plays Victor Frankenstein, Oscar Isaac's father, and he's gonna chastise him with a cane. He's gonna beat him with a cane, and then the kid puts his hands out and he goes, "No, you'll need them as a surgeon, but your face is vanity," and whacks him in the face. And it's like, Jesus, that's kinda, that's kinda brutal.
That's harsh. Well, and then, objectively, we're watching these people, and you watch Oscar Isaac treat his child the exact same way, and the way he created him was more. Again, that's an interesting point that from the press conference you brought up. He's created this person to be more appealing, like to actually, because if you think of Karloff's. Like, there is no way that person's passing in public.
Yeah, you're right. As he goes on, he becomes someone who could walk down a street, perhaps.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, heads would turn, but he wouldn't immediately be shunned.
Right. He's not so monstrous. And maybe that's kind of the downside of it, too. There's not... when he's being chased in the wood and shot at by hunters, and they're calling him It or the creature, and it's like, well, he does look like a man. He moves like a man. I don't know.
Yeah, he's humanoid, and you're not close enough to really smell him or anything.
Exactly.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I think, ironically, this is a film that, it needs to be seen on the biggest screen possible and just to be lost in it. At the same time, it's going to be one of the many, many films that is going to be available to me on Netflix that I have no real need or wish to watch again.
Yeah, I don't know that beyond for professional reasons I will be anytime soon. But that and it's funny you bring up Burton, because the score by what's his nuts was giving
Alexander Desplat.
Yeah. Who has been disappointing to me lately, but I felt like he was doing Danny Elfman with the score several times.
Yeah, no, you're right. I did like the score during the creation scene where he plays a waltz. So it's kind of nice and joyful. So what fun,
What fun, but and the kind of interlude sequences, it feels... I don't know. It was my mind was drifting towards Elfman many times.
Yeah, it is a noisy film. It's a full film. Every corner is filled with detail. And that can work, but it does work against. Well, first of all, it works against any sense that this is a horror film. And secondly, it works against, this is a kind of film where people say, it's not a horror film, it's a love story. And it's like, well, I kind of want it to be a horror film.
Right.
We've got love stories.
We have lots of love stories.
Yeah.
Maybe a horrific love story? Yeah, it doesn't, there's no sense of, there's no tension, maybe, is what I didn't really feel like there's much of a build-up. But again, we've seen this story so many times. I guess I was mostly curious to see how he would end it, and...
Yeah, it's interesting that Nosferatu and this are out, and they're both films that are overwhelmingly about set design.
Yes, certainly. And at the very least, I'm happier with how Lordy looks versus Skarsgård as Nosferatu, who that could have been anybody.
Yeah, you could, I totally agree with that. I think Nosferatu was you miss an open goal when you can't produce a convincing Dracula.
Yes, and then again, why give that notable actor a paycheck? You can't put anybody in. There's nothing. I don't know. But so I think as Frankenstein goes on, you can see Lordy's evolution, which I liked well enough.
Yeah. Well, listen, Nick. I think we've done it. I think we've done quite a few films. We've left loads out.
Yeah.
But let's do this again soon, and we'll wrap the festival.
Yeah, I would be glad to be invited back.
Brilliant. Take care.
You too.